Hello, hello, hello. My story, very normal people. Hello, Kathleen. Welcome to our show.
Hi, Arthur. Thanks for having me.
So, Catherine is a writer of 10 books, and she's an international bestseller, right?
Yes.
Okay, please tell us something about yourself more.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been writing since I was 10, which has been a couple decades now. And I live in Colorado, in the United States with my 4-year-old daughter and my husband. Um, and I am a full-time author. This is what I do. It's my day job and sometimes my night job. And which, I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to do what I love, and to have managed to turn my passion into a full-time, well-paying career, which I have heard doesn't quite happen as much as it should, as much as I wish that other people were able to do this. So I write dark fiction across the board, with my own books that are out. I write grimdark fantasy, dystopian sci-fi, urban fantasy, and LGBTQ fiction, speculative fiction. And I'm also a fiction ghostwriter. So for my clients, I've written pretty much every single genre except for romance. That is something that I just know I can't
So
do.
you have lived that one. That part you have lived. So you didn't
Yes,
write for
yes.
that.
Yeah, I don't need to write about it anymore. Mm. So, yeah, that is what I do. That's me, and I live and breathe writing fiction, which is fantastic.
That's good. Don't wake up. We love those ones. Just keep writing.
Yeah, I wish. If I could, I would probably.
So, can you please tell us how did you start to write books?
Yeah, I remember very specifically the first day, that I realized writing stories was actually a thing. I've been a big reader for as long as I can remember, ever since I learned how to read. And right before I turned 10, I was having this reoccurring nightmare, where I was in my favorite movie, which at the time was Fern Gully. It's an animated movie about fairies in the rainforest. And I hated the ending. So I always wanted to change the ending and see the story with a different ending. And this nightmare of mine, and it was terrifying to me as a 10-year-old, because I was in the movie, in the story, and I couldn't make it end the way I wanted it to. And I had the same dream for weeks, until I woke up on my 10th birthday and had this realization that I could just rewrite the end of it. And then I could finally get rid of this nightmare I was having. I did not rewrite the end of the movie Fern Gully, but I started writing that day, after putting two and two together, that every single book I'd read and every single movie I'd watched had been written by someone who got to control every part of the story and the way it ended. And I never stopped writing after that. So I started with another story about fairies, and that has never been seen by anyone, and I'll never go back to touch it. But that was my very first. And then I just found that it was what I love to do more than anything in the whole world. And yeah, never stopped.
Mm. Was this the motive of the first book, right? Let's say in one sense to rewrite the end of the story, right? So what
Right.
about the other book, the second one? Did you have something like this? Just to rewrite the end of another movie or
No, no. No, my motivation has never been to rewrite the ending of somebody else's story. But that's what kicked it off.
so please tell us something about other books that you have written. The second, for example.
Yes. I finished my first two novels when I was a junior in high school, I think. I spent a lot of time in school and out of school writing these books. And I'm sure that my teachers thought I was always very studious in class. I was writing these books during class, and I think my teachers probably thought I was taking a lot of notes, but I wasn't. And I even told all my friends that I couldn't do anything with them for New Year's Eve that year in high school because I was finishing this book. I had to finish this book. And then I sat on these two first books for 9 years, I think, 9 or 10 years before revisiting them. And those became the first two books that I published, as Daughter of the Draken and Mother of the Draken. And those are grimdark, epic fantasy. I like to describe them as the Jungle Book meets Kill Bill with dragons. So it's very violent and bloody in epic fantasy. And yeah, those two were my first. I originally queried it to traditional publishing agents to see if anyone wanted it, and it was rejected. I got really 116 rejection letters from everyone I sent this book to. And so then I decided that I wanted to see the story out in the world. And self-publishing and indie publishing was just starting to branch out and become bigger. It had been for a few years, but I jumped on it in 2015. And the first book in that duology hit the Amazon bestsellers list on the first 6 months after I published it. So I figured, hey, okay, I've got something here. People want to read my stories in these books, and that was the official technical start to my author career. And then, like I said, I have the Unclaimed Trilogy, which is also dark epic fantasy that trilogy I wrote once I decided that I needed to work a little bit more with more focus and dedication than I had been on my previous books. And this was when my daughter was a year old. So I published that trilogy in 2018. And then I have a novella out there that's in the same world. It's called The Summoning Thief, and that's a prequel to another very, very dark, very violent fantasy series I'm working on, Vessel Broken. And my Blue Helix series is this LGBTQ dystopian sci-fi, and both books currently in that series were international bestsellers, which is fantastic. And that was my first attempt at science fiction in any real way for my own books. I had ghostwritten a few with my clients, and that turned out a lot better than I anticipated. Those two books are very close to home for me. They have a lot of my life within them. And then I also have the first two books right now of the Accessory to Magic series, which is dark urban fantasy, action and adventure. And this is an apprentice witch with a criminal past inherits a magical bank that can think for itself. And the clientele are almost as dangerous as what's inside their safety deposit boxes. So that's just a story of complete chaos and hilarity and magic. I never really thought that I would be writing urban fantasy under my own name with my own books until spending about a year ghostwriting urban fantasy for one of my bigger main clients, and realizing that I actually have a pretty good handle on writing urban fantasy. All of those books were very well received and enjoyed. Then I decided to start writing it myself. And yeah, the first two books in that series are out right now, and they are my best by far and away best-selling books so far, and there will be 3 more in the next couple of months coming out. I'm doing this rather quickly, but that was the plan. So I'm excited for that. Those are all my books. You can find with my name on them.
That's really great. So, please tell us something. Who is your favorite writer? Because you said you have read a lot.
Yes, I have read a lot. But it's such a hard question to
I know, I
answer.
know.
I have a lot. Stephen King has always been very high up on my list. I also started reading Stephen King when I was 10. The age of 10 is pretty much when everything in my life started. So I've always loved Stephen King, and his Dark Tower series is my all-time favorite series. I am about to start book 7 of that series for the 10th time. This will be my 10th time reading through it. And anyone who's read The Dark Tower will probably understand how a person could read the same series 10 times. I also really love Neil Gaiman and Jacqueline Carey, and they both write fantasy as well. William Gibson is my absolute favorite sci-fi author, and then I guess with literary fiction, John Irving has also been a huge favorite of mine for a long time, just for the surrealness in his books, and he mixes it up with so much humor. I love his writing as well. Those are probably my top 5, however many that was.
So, I wanted to ask, when you write the books that you write, how does your life let's say, infected in one sense, or what happens when you write your books, especially when you
Yeah.
when you write about the darkness?
Yes.
Sorry, do you have any goal in your life that you want people to get scary?
Yeah, I'm not trying to scare people. Definitely not, no. But yeah, I do write all the darkness, because that's my way of sort of funneling it out of my life and into stories, so that I can keep all the happiness and the love and abundance in my personal life. There was definitely a time in my life where my reality was very dark. Let's see, just last July, I celebrated 10 years clean from heroin addiction. So long time ago in my life, that was something that I really struggled with for quite some time, and something where I consider myself extremely fortunate to still be here after having gone through that. So when I write, I've always loved dark themes and dark content, and the really gritty, sometimes terrifying struggles that my characters go through. And so when I write now, it's about me bringing that forward out of myself, so I don't have to live with it anymore, and also to bring to light for other people who are reading these stories that own darkness they have in themselves. We all have a dark and a light side, I believe. Yeah. And the main theme that I'm always trying to bring into my writing is that the mistakes that we make and the harm that we may cause to ourselves or others do not define who we are or the possibility for creating our own futures moving forward. So I'm always trying to bring that message through my writing, even when I go into some really deep and dark, violent, scary places.
So, sorry, for somebody to write about, let's say, darkness, is it easier or is it more difficult? If you compare the darkness with the light, how do you see it?
for me personally, I know it's different for everyone. For me personally, I find writing about the dark things a lot easier,
Mhm.
probably because I enjoy it more, um, which is that, the difference between living out that darkness that's in me in my real life and writing about it. So I enjoy it. I love being in that space, and experiencing those things that I think most people may shy away from or don't want to look at. I really like being in that place when I get to make it up and put it into someone else's story and not my own. I know what it's like to live it. When I'm living that darkness, it's definitely much harder. But writing it is easier for me because I just like it. I enjoy it. That's where I get really passionate with writing.
Okay. So let's say so when you write, let's say, a book, you always have let's say a subject on that, or a theme or something. You are so if somebody will ask you about all of your books, do they have any certain uh, subject to talk? I mean, something that is characteristic of yours in your books that you want to, or the message that you want to give to the world, to the reader.
Yeah, and um, that's basically yeah what I had already said is that
Mm-hmm.
mistakes not defining us, which for a long time I really struggled with, thinking that the rest of my life was defined by my addiction. But even after I stopped using, even after I changed my life, I still had a hard time getting past that. And I know I'm not the only person who may, beat themselves up over certain decisions and mistakes. And so I hope that, anyone who picks up my books and reads them for any reason, it could just be because they're fun and enjoyable and that's it. But always underneath there is a message that,
Yeah.
redemption is not impossible,
Right.
and that, no one is ever 100% good or 100% bad. There's always a choice to step up and improve and be better, even when it seems like the entire world is against you and it's impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you think that you have lived your dream, or you're living your dream, or you're still on the
Absolutely.
way, or?
Yeah, I am definitely living my dream in the sense that I get to write fiction all day, every day, and support my family, with income from my writing career, which is like I don't have to focus on anything else. I get my family and writing. That's definitely living the dream, and I still have a way to go as well. I would love to eventually, and I will get there, only be writing my own books. So what's enabled me to get this far is taking up ghostwriting, which has been a huge learning opportunity and so much fun, and has allowed me to get to this point in my career so that now I can invest more in my own writing and in my business and kind of shift that focus to just writing what I want to write. Which that's the end goal, and to be working a little bit less. Isn't that the goal for everybody, right?
Everybody wants to be a queen and king.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's hard sometimes, doing what you really really love for a living, because I guess it goes hand in hand with being a workaholic. I could stay in my office all day every day and just do this if I didn't have my family to come pull me out of my office and say, be with us, time for dinner,
Okay.
whatever.
So for you, it's so. I see.
It is. I'm very happy with what I do. I do
It's
feel
you,
like I'm
let's say
living the
your
dream.
books are your life. You can't live without them. You know, the paper and the
Yes,
pen. You can't live without them, huh? Okay.
absolutely. That's it. My 4-year-old is also not allowed to touch my personal library of books because that's how much I love them.
So, Catherine, maybe we missed something. Do you want something else to share with our audience before we finish?
I think we covered a lot of good things.
No,
Yeah,
you don't
I
have to say that. I have a lot to say. I don't know where to start. Okay, you never say that. You never finish. Okay.
what well,
Yes,
do we have
yes.
enough time? I don't know. Like
Yeah,
let's
we
keep
don't have enough time,
going.
right? That is how we say that. And that's true for you, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got me. You got me.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much for coming our show, and we wish you all your best and the wishes of your heart to be fulfilled. That is what I
Thank
like to
you.
wish, let's say, my friends normally. So I hope you everything is going well with you, with your family, with everybody, and so maybe one day we'll see you so famous. They will say, you know, I, that that lady there that you see, oh, she has been in our show, and we hope you will come back again to have another
Yeah,
interview.
you have to say
Mm,
it happened. Come back. I will absolutely come back and tell you all about it. You got it.
yes, yes,
Thanks.
we will love to see that.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Arthur.
It was a pleasure. Okay, goodbye.